Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining me. Welcome to today's edition of the Daf Yomi with Bava Metzia Tractate Daf 72 Omad A. Let's dive straight in. So just finish off halfway through a sentence from the last Omad. As with the minor, it is not the case that even though he is not included in the category of agency, nevertheless he has the power by rabbinic law to acquire an item by means of an act of acquisition performed by another. What does that mean? Katan islay zechia midrabanon. Others can acquire an item on behalf of a minor, even if he is only 1 day old, both in his presence and not in his presence. That's the Rambam say for kin in Hilchot Zekia Umatana 4:8 and Kon Orach Mishpat 243:18. Here also it is not different. The Jew can perform an act of acquisition on behalf of the Gentile, even though there is no agency for Gentiles. The Gemara rejects this comparison. But that is not so. A minor Jew will eventually reach the stage of eligibility for agency, but a Gentile will not reach eligibility for agency. Consequently, the sages did not establish the power for Gentiles to acquire an item by means of an acquisition performed by a Jew. The sages taught, in the case of a Jew who borrowed money with interest from a Gentile, and the Gentile lender established the interest as a loan for the Jewish borrower, i.e. he added the amount of interest to the principal and consolidated into a single debt, and then the Gentile converted. In the case of a Jew who borrowed money with interest from a Gentile, where the Gentile consolidated the principal and the interest into a single debt, if he did it before he converted, he may collect both the principal and the interest. If he consolidated that after he converted, he may collect only the principal. Conversely, in the case of a Gentile borrowed money with interest from a Jew, where a Jew consolidated the principal and the interest into a single debt, and then the Gentile converted, even Jew consolidated debt after the Gentile converted, the lender may collect both the principal and the interest. This is in order that it not be said that the Gentile converted in order to avoid paying the interest. That's the Rambam say from Mishpat and Hilchot Bava Metzia Daf 5:6 Shulchan Aruch Yodeah and 71:1. The halacha depends on the circumstances. If the Gentile established it as a loan for him before he converted, he may collect the principal from the borrower, and he may also collect the interest. Since it had already been consolidated into a single debt, it is as though he already collected the interest while he is still a Gentile. But if he established it as a loan for him after he converted, he may collect the principal but may not collect the interest, as it still has a state of interest when he became a Jew. And similarly, in the case of a Gentile borrowed money with interest from a Jew, and the Jewish lender established the interest as a loan for the Gentile borrower, and then the Gentile borrower converted, if he established it as a loan before he converted, the Jew may collect the principal and may also collect the interest. If he established it as a loan for the Gentile after he converted, he may collect the principal but may not collect the interest, as it still has the stage of interest when he became a Jew. The Baraita continues. Rabbi Yossi says, if a Gentile borrowed money with interest from a Jew and converted, whether in this circumstance or whether in that circumstance, regardless of whether the lender consolidated the interest and the principal into a single debt, Jewish lender may collect the principal and he may also collect the interest. Rav says that Rav Chisda says that Rav Huna says the halacha is in the contrary of the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Rav says, what is the reason behind the opinion of Rabbi Yossi? What is the occasion of collecting interest from a Jew? Is in order that people not say this individual converted due to concern for his money. According to the explanation, the halacha here is certainly by rabbinic law, and the statement that the sage allowed the collection of interest in this case due to this concern. It has been asked, how could the sage have allowed the lender to collect interest in a manner prohibited by the Torah? Some answer that the decree is based on the principle that property declared ownerless by the court is considered ownerless, and that the sage have the authority to act concerning any monetary matter. Most of the commentaries explain that since at the time of the loan the interest was permitted, the obligation against collecting interest is rabbinic in nature. Therefore, the sage had the authority to make an exception in this case. People will suspect that he converted on to avoid paying the interest. The sage is taught in the case of a promissory note, in which the details of a loan with interest were written. The early commentaries discuss the specific details of the document in question. According to the Ramban, the case concerns a document that did not explicitly state that part of the sum to be paid was interest, since such a document would be invalid, as witnesses who would sign such a document became invalid witnesses. Therefore, the Ramban says the case concerns a document in which the sum to be paid was written without specification, and therefore it is inconceivable that the witnesses are valid, as they did not know that a portion of that sum was interest. According to Tosfot, Gemara is discussing a document that explicitly stated that part of the sum to be paid was interest. Nevertheless, according to the rabbis, the lender may collect the principal. The witnesses are not invalid despite having transgressed the Torah prohibition by signing the document, as transgressing a prohibition disqualifies one from serving as a witness only if the prohibition is well known. In addition, the witnesses did not transgress out of desire for personal gain. A transgression of this type does not disqualify one from serving as a witness. If there was a promissory note with the sum to be paid as interest explicitly written in it, the lender may not collect the interest, but may use to collect the principal, even if from lien property, said the Sheikh. Some authorities disagree and hold that such a document is completely invalid, and even the principal cannot be collected, said the Ramban. This should be considered a halacha that is not settled, and therefore, if the lender sees payment, it is not removed from the Sheikh and Aruch HaShulchan. The interest was included with the principal in the document, and the witnesses were aware of this. The document is invalid, and that cannot be collected at all. If the borrower concedes that he borrowed the money, he must pay the principal. The Sheikh that has Nagura says that he is not liable to pay, as lender is penalized, but Allah is not in accordance with his opinion. That's the Bava Metzia Daf Mishpat Meherchamav Valova 4:6 Shulchan Aruch Yehudeya in 61:11, and in the comment of the Mar Choshen Mishpat 52:1. We penalize the lender, and therefore he may not collect the principal. Eina gove es hakeren. It is being asked, why should the borrower, who also transgressed a prohibition, benefit by having his loan cancelled? This would answer that the purpose of the penalty is to serve as a deterrent against violating this halacha, and therefore it is the lender who is penalized, and may not collect the interest. Is the statement of Rabbi Meir, and the rabbis say he may collect the principal, but he may not collect the interest. The Gemara asks, with regard to what principle do they disagree? The Gemara explains, Rabbi Meir holds, we penalize him with regard to that which is permitted due to that which is prohibited. And the rabbis hold, we do not penalize him with regard to that which is permitted due to that which is prohibited. We learned in a Mishnah elsewhere, in Shavuos 10:5, antedated promissory notes. What does that mean? Shitei chov migdomim. An antedated promissory note is invalid and may not be used to collect from a lien property that had been sold, even after the date of the actual loan. It may be used to collect the debt from unsold property in Bava Metzia Daf Mishpat 23:1, Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 43:7, in which the date written in the document is earlier than the date the loan was actually transacted, are not valid, but post-dated promissory notes are valid. That is, perhaps the lender will bring the document to a court that does not know it is antedated, and they will rule that he can collect the debt according to the date written therein. The Gemara asks, why are antedated documents not valid? Granted, they cannot be used to collect from the first date, the date written in them, because this could cause a loss to people who purchased land from the borrower in the time between the date written on the promissory note and the time the loan was actually granted. The land they purchased would be subject to a lien when in fact it should not be, but at least they should be able to be used to collect from the second date when the loan was actually granted. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says the mission is subject to dispute, and is taught in according to the opinion of Rabbi Meir, who said, "As the lender is penalized with regard to that which is permitted due to that which is prohibited." Here too, since he wrote an incorrect date, the entire document is invalidated as a penalty. Rabbi Yochanan says, you may even say that this halacha is according to the opinion of the rabbis, as here there is a rabbinic decree invalidating the document unless he collects from the first date. Antedated promissory note is invalid and may not be used to collect from lien property that has been sold, even after the date of the actual loan. It may be used to collect the debt from unsold property, and that's from Bava Metzia Daf Mishpat 21, Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 43:7. If the document is not invalidated, the lender will depend on it and will come to collect repayment according to the date written on it. Then well later, there was a certain man who mortgaged his orchard to another as security for a loan, and the lender consumed the produce of the orchard for 3 years. At the end of this time, the lender said to the borrower, "If you sell me the orchard, that's good. But if not, I will hide the document of the mortgage, and I will say it is purchased, and that is why it is in my possession, meaning that I will claim I purchased the field and lost the deed. Since the land has been in my possession for 3 years, I do not have to bring any other proof, as the law is that after 3 years of use of a field, there is a presumption of ownership for the one who uses it." See Bava Metzia 29b. When the borrower saw that he could not protect himself against the ruse, he devised a scheme. He went and transferred ownership of the field to his minor son, Aza Akne Livna Katan. While the borrower could have declared before witnesses that he is selling the field under duress, in the text of a deed of sale, it is generally written that the seller knows all previous notifications. Therefore, he was apprehensive about utilizing this defense, and that's from the Me'irin and the Ritva. He could also have transferred ownership to an adult son, but he was afraid that the buyer might placate the son with money or threaten him. So he transferred ownership in a manner that would prevent the holder of the property from attaining possession of it, else no ritva. By means of a deed of gift, and afterwards sold the field to the lender. Subsequently, he demanded that the sale be annulled, since when he sold the field it was not his. The Gemara clarified the halacha. The sale was certainly not a sale. Just the note from before, a post-dated promissory note written with the terminology indicating that it was written at a later date is valid and actionable. One should not write a post-dated document ab initio as it appears fraudulent. Post-dated deeds of sale are completely invalid, and as the Rambam says from Mishpatim, Hilchot Ma'amar 21, Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 47, and the comment of Ramah. If one was forced to sell property under duress and the seller voiced a declaration in some other way, made clear that he did not want to sell it, the sale is void. And that's the Rambam says for Kin Hilchot Mechira 10:4, Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 257. Since the field was not his to sell, but the question is, are the dinars that the buyer paid similar to a loan in the promissory note, and therefore the buyer can collect the money he paid even from the property that has been sold? Or perhaps it's similar to a loan by all agreement, and therefore he cannot collect it from the property that has been sold. The buyer says, is this question not the same as the Ravasi? As Ravasi says, that moves on to the next. Omid B. So I end it there. Thanks for listening, and all the best. Bye.